Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back. Welcome back. My name is Jessica Harris here, and we are back with a brand new episode. For those of you who are just now tuning in, this channel is all about keeping you encouraged on your faith walk journey of love, life, and truly everything in between. But not only that, I am an entrepreneur, an empowerment life coach, I am an author, and a mom to three amazing little people. That being said, this channel has so much for you. So today's conversation is all about taking that step. Listen, I don't know what step it is that you need to take right now. I don't know what it is that you have been kind of like thinking back and forth on. Like, should I do it? Should I not do it? Should I start it? Should I not start it? Should I take that leap of faith? Or should I just bow out and be like, God, I can't do it. I can't. Whatever it is for you, I want to encourage you today to actually go ahead and just take that leap, right? Take that step of faith. Take the leap and see what happens. Sometimes it looks scary. Don't play, right? Sometimes it looks like, okay, are you sure this is going to work? And the story that has come to mind a few times over the last week, or two, better yet, has been the story of Peter, right? Where Jesus calls out to the disciples, and I think he told them, like, come to me or something like that. But it was Peter who stepped out, right? And I don't know if he like probably looked at the other guys and was like, yo, we about to go do this. But the way the text reads is that he just started walking, right? But it wasn't until he looked down that he began to that not drown, but that he went in the water a little bit, right? But it was the concept that when his eyes was focused on God, he didn't, right? When his eyes were focused on God, he walked. I know people always make fun of the fact like, oh, well, he fell in, yada yada. And I'm like, and I get that part. It happens to the best of us, right? Like we've all done that, right? Where there's a leap of faith and we're kind of like, okay, God, I'm gonna go. And you kind of start looking around you, and then by looking around you, you kind of get off focus, and you're like, and he's looking like, I was never gonna let you fall, right? Like I was never gonna let you fail. I was never gonna leave you in that situation. Like I'm right here. Like just keep your eyes focused on me. And I just want to share that with you because sometimes, we have this project, right? Or this call on life that we have, it can be your calling, it can be your purpose, it can be something inside of you where you're like, yo, I don't know what it is, but I feel like God's gonna have me do something this year that's gonna make me real uncomfortable. And I don't know if you have that feeling. I know I get those feelings where I'm like, God, I feel like you're gonna have me do something that I ain't really trying to do. Like you can just feel it sometimes, right? And I want to encourage you to lean in at that time and not to be discouraged, right? Listen, sometimes we lean in and we're trying to hear, like, okay, is it right now? Right? Is it 5 months from now? Is it a year from now? Like, when do you want me to do this? And for some people, it is like a right now, like just jump, like just go for it. And that could be you trying to, go after I don't know why that was gonna come to mind, but the contracts is what's coming to mind. There may be people who are trying to go after contracts right now, right? For their businesses, for grants, especially because we're in a brand new year. I know it's not a brand new fiscal year. We're about halfway through for the fiscal year. I know it's a brand new year, and I know there's like opportunities that begin to arise, especially at the start of the year because there's contracts, there's agencies, there's speaking engagements and stuff that's coming into play right now. People are looking for speakers for their conferences right now. Like there's a lot of movement that begins to take place at the beginning of the year. And oftentimes, we get into this phase where we're like, God, well, I'm not ready. I don't know enough. I don't think I'm good enough. I don't have the experience. And God may be looking back at you like, what do you think all that you've been doing your entire life was? For fun, kicks, and giggles? No. Like your experience lies in what it is that you've been through. Your experience lies in the knowledge you've gained, the wisdom that He gives you. Like your experiences are gained in the testimonies, right? Of the journey that you're in. And sometimes we don't realize that just by taking a leap of faith. Stepping out when we hear his voice to step out is what he's looking for. Sometimes for real, it's just the act of obedience. Like I'll never forget when I first felt like the nudge to start a YouTube channel. And this was like several years back. And I remember just being like, I'm not starting a channel. Like, I didn't want to put my face online. I was like, I want to be online. Like, I'm good. No, thank you. Like, I don't want people to see me. I didn't want nobody to see me. I was cool being in the background. I don't want y'all to see me. Like, no, I'm good. No, thank you. Right. And I remember it was like, if you don't just start this channel, I'm like, but I don't want to. Right? That was my back and forth with God. And I remember just being in that place of like, all right, God, what you want me to do? And prior to like him saying that, he had been waking me up every single day for like a month, I think almost. Like a few months prior, it was like a month, he had woke me up every single day. And every day he would give me an affirmation. And it was like, you are beautiful, followed by scripture, followed by words of encouragement. And then the next one was like, you are strong, followed by a scripture, followed by words of encouragement. And he did this for about 21 days. And I remember feeling like, I think you want me to read those to people. And I got the green light on it. And I was like, okay, I could do that. Right? Like I could just read what I wrote. Like, that's fine, God. We could do that. And that's where we started. And I remember being super nervous because y'all, like I said, it wasn't something that I woke up with saying, "Oh, I want to be online." No. And I'm sharing that part because there may be some of you guys, right, who watch YouTube a lot. Because I know there's a lot of people who watch YouTube that I just be looking like, you need to have your own channel because you have your own experiences that people need to hear. And they're like, yeah, one day. And I'm like, well, one day can be 2 days. So hold on for a minute because I need to put this in. Anyways, I'm sharing all of that because I feel like sometimes we don't realize like just how valuable our own experiences are, or just how like valuable what it is that we've gone through and how it can impact somebody else. And when we sit there and don't take out that step, right? We don't, go off in that direction that God is telling us to go off in, and we're kind of hesitant about it. It kind of shows, up in the faith part, because, sometimes we'll be praying like, well, God, um, I want to do X, Y, and Z for you. And it's like, okay, so do X. And you're looking like, but that don't look like, that's not what, it's like, that's not what I prayed about, right? And we don't always realize that what we're praying for and what we having us do right now possibly are related. And that maybe what he's having you do is the step that you need to take to get to where you're asking him for, right? Like sometimes we think that, oh, we're just going to end up like, if I pray about A, he's just gonna give me A. And sometimes we don't realize that he's giving us, TUV. And we're like, this looks like A. But there's a connection, right? There's something there that we're gonna gain from that experience. There's something there that we're gonna go through that's gonna allow us to have the endurance, the patience that we need to handle what A has. See, sometimes we look at something and we just see the surface level of it, but God knows like the greater picture, right? That is beyond our scope. And sometimes we think that it doesn't look the way that we want it to look because in our minds we have this limited perception of it. And he's like, if you saw it from my angle, you would realize that the reason why I'm having you do T, U, and V is because A isn't just for you, right? A is for you and for those that are connected to you. TUV is going to prepare you because what A carries is much bigger than what it is that you have the ability to sustain right now. But the experiences that you'll gain from TU and V will position you to be able to then sustain what is at level A. And sometimes we don't catch that. Sometimes we just look at things as being lateral, like just straight through, not realizing that there may be, pieces here and there and there and there that all have to come together for what it is that he's doing. And again, everybody's journey is different. So this isn't to say like it's not just smooth sailing and done. It can be. I'm not gonna say it's not. But at the same time, I also know that he works in really unique ways for us. So when we say like, God, I'm gonna take this leap and I'm gonna see what happens, right? We're just putting our faith, right? And he tells us, like when we pray, we're to pray believing, we're to pray, not doubting, we're to pray and just be like, all right, God, see you. So I'm gonna just go with you. I'm gonna go with the flow. I'm gonna go with the flow because I have to believe that if this is what you're allowing to happen, if this is what you're saying is gonna take place, if this is what you're saying that you want me to step into, then I can trust that you have it under control. And sometimes we just have to trust that He has it under control. And I'll be honest, there are plenty of times in my life, God knows, right, that I have said with my mouth, God, I trust you. You're in control. You got this, right? And then at the same time, right, my hands are trying to like, okay, how can I control this? And how can I control that? And how can I control this over here? And God just be looking back like, didn't she just say I got it? Like, didn't she tag me into this? And she's still trying to do this on her own. Like, she tagged me in. What's she doing over there? Right? Like, I'm pretty sure he be having those moments. And I just be looking like, God, I'm trying. I know I tagged you in, but I'm trying to wrap my head around how this is supposed to look still. Right? Because I'm human. And I'm sharing that part because I feel like sometimes we think like, oh, they on this faith journey, they got like everything's 100%, they got it together, like they don't have questions still. And I'm like, says who? Says who? Says who? Like we on this faith walk journey together. Like it's always going to be a season where I'm going to be looking at God like, okay, God, trust you because I've seen you in my previous seasons. So I know you're possible. I know you're able. I know this can be done. I still got questions. But maybe I have questions. Maybe in this season, my God, I got questions. But you know what? May your will be done. May your will be done. Because I've seen you work out some stuff that I be looking like, I don't know how that even came together. Even about to try to question you. I'm just gonna rock with the flow. Like, yeah, let go. You said do what today? I got you. Let me just focus on us. You said do what tomorrow? Okay, I got you. Let me just do why. I'm not gonna question you. Listen, I may not even question you when I be looking like God, but doesn't it make more sense to do X today and Y today and then that tomorrow? And he's just like, I understand you think that that's what should be done, but tomorrow makes a better day to do X, Y, and Z. Because what you don't know is that something's gonna take place, it's gonna derail something else, and it's gonna give you opportunity to do the other thing. Y'all, sometimes understanding that because we don't always have the full sight of what's up ahead, like, yes, we may know some things. Yes, we may have a prophetic word about some areas, but there's a lot of areas that we don't know about ourselves. There's a lot of areas that we don't know about what's coming up. Like, I can't tell you what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. I can assume that in the next 5 minutes, I'll probably still be right where I'm at, making another video. That's what I can assume. But is that guaranteed? No. Someone can come knocking and be like, yo, it's time to go. And I can be like, oh, okay, got it. That's why you said record at such and such time, God, because you knew I was only going to have a limited amount of time before someone would come in, right? Like, as the example. And I'm saying that part because sometimes what we think as this amount of time that we have to do things, and God is like, I know that's what you perceive it to be, but the reality is that you really have this amount of time to do such because I need you to be in a position to then do this, right? Or I really want you to focus on that project that I gave you, a year ago and get it to completion because there's another one that I'm trying to release into you that's going to give you the financial blessing that you're looking for to then complete the other thing that is on your heart. Right? Like sometimes we don't realize the connections that pieces have. And we may be so focused, like, well, I just need to work on X, 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 and X. And he's like, I know, but you need the pieces to go with that. And if you would do Y just for a little bit, you'll understand that Y is going to give you the connections that you need for X. And I'm sharing that part because when we take this leap, when we begin to engage with other people, when we begin to network, when we begin to talk, when we begin to open up our mouths, right, we begin to see Him move with us and through us and in us. And we begin to be like, oh, that's why I went to that event, God. Okay, that's why you had me go up to that prayer call, God. I got you. That's why you went ahead and had me share my story about such and such, because you knew that there was someone in the room who needed to hear it, because you knew that there was something that you needed to have released in the atmosphere. If I had not done X, it would not have been released in the way or in the timing, the way that you wanted to do it. God is more than able to do anything that He wants to do at any given time. But I believe that there is a satisfaction that He gets when He is able to allow His glory to shine through His children so that other people can bear witness, because we are able to then be encouraged and then have an increase in our faith when we see it, especially when we're in the presence of what it is that He's doing. So, why sit there and be like, God, I can't, when he's the one who gave it to you, right? It's the concept to me where it's like we look at little kids and some of them may be trying to draw a picture and they may be like, I can't make this circle, I can't make this face, I can't make the eyes, and I can't make the nose. And the teacher's like, no, no, yes you can. Yes you can. Let's sit down and let's look at this picture again. Look at my face, look at your face. Where do they go? Okay, so let's start with one piece and let's do this here, right? The patience part comes into play. And then we begin to patiently put the pieces where they need to go. And then we begin to maneuver the pencil and making the shape and the forms of those parts that are necessary for that circle to then look like a face, right? But it took time, it took patience. It took taking a moment to step back and not getting overwhelmed and not doubting and throwing away the vision, but instead having someone reframe your thoughts, your mind, just for a moment, to remind you that you were more than able and more than capable of performing it, of doing it, of creating it. And that's what I want to encourage you to do today. Take that step, take that leap. I remember the book of Gideon, where God was like to Gideon, hey, I'm going to use you to defeat the army, right? Because they were under I forget whose control they were under, because at that time they had created an idol and stuff like that, because Jesus, not Jesus, excuse me, God was with them, like the family and stuff like that, the people that was in that area before Gideon and stuff like that. And then they ended up making an idol worship towards Baal. And it was like that repeated story in the Bible where it's like God is with them, they start looking elsewhere, they go after Baal, they start making idols and stuff like that. And then God is like, all right, that's on y'all. And then God comes back because his love and grace and mercy is upon them, right? And then he brings it into position again. And that's what he did here with Gideon, right? Where he was like, Gideon, I'm going to use you, and I'm gonna use you to essentially like rectify things. And I'm gonna have you go ahead and burn down, or take down the idol, burn it, whatever the case is. And I'm gonna have you put up a brand new idol. And I remember him just being like, yo, I can't do this. I'm the least of them. Like, what you mean, God? And God is like, but I'm gonna use you. But not only am I use you for that part, this was just the first step, because the greater step was that I wanted to use you to defeat the other army. And I remember Gideon just looking at God like, I believe that you are God, but I'm gonna need some proof here, right? And God went ahead and did the proof thing for him, where it was like the grass was like dewy and wet, and he wanted the blanket to be dry, and then he wanted like something to be dry, and then he wanted a blanket to be wet, and God did it for him twice and stuff like that, just to show him like, I'm God. And I believe it was the angel of the Lord, if I'm not mistaken, that had went like, and did this whole thing with him on behalf of God and stuff. But it was that concept, right? Like there was this big leap of faith that Gideon had to take and believe in God, that God was going to use him, the one who came from the least of the families, the ones who came from I don't know if it was the weakest family, but definitely the least of them from what he has said in the word. And just understanding that there was this leap of faith. And not only did this leap of faith, was in the sense of having to destroy the idol, that was one part. But then it was hearing that God was going to use him to basically overtake the other army. That was the other part. But then the third part came in when God was like, hey, you have a lot of guys here. Um, I know I told you that you're going to be able to defeat this army that you're about to go up against, but if you go with the army that you have in front of you right now, there's just way too many of them. And because you have so many of them, if you defeat them with what you have right now, essentially, y'all are just going to basically boast in yourselves and say that it was y'all. So tell everybody here who is afraid they can just go home. And I think like 22,000 men left, if I'm not mistaken. And it was like, what? Okay. And then they left. And then you would think like Gideon's just looking like, okay, God, you real. I'm gonna trust you. Right? Because you just sent like the bulk of my team home. But okay, I'm gonna trust you, right? And then it didn't stop there. God didn't just stop there. He did it again. God was like, you still got like a good amount of people here, and the same rule applies. Even though we slim them out because of the amount of men that you have right here right now. Oh, I just feel that if I send them in with who you have right now, right? Like they gonna boast about themselves and think that it was them. I'm gonna need you to slim it down some more. And they did. And I remember he's like, listen, bring them to the water and I'm gonna show you how we gonna slim them out. And it was like a matter of those who like put their face in the water versus those who like brought the water up to their faces to drink. And I forget which group he sent home, but one of the groups sent home. So one of them went home and then it left him with about 300 men. And God's kind of looking at the 300 men like, in this is who I'm gonna use, right? So can you imagine God saying like, hey, I'm gonna build up your faith. I showed you these two miracles and stuff like that. I was with you when you went ahead and burnt down the idol thing and stuff like that. So there was obedience for that part. You saw the miracles being witnessed there. And now I'm telling you this big thing that I'm going to have you do. But instead of you doing it in the strength that you thought you were coming with, I'm actually going to weaken what looks like strength to you so you can see the strength that I have as God. And that's the part that I feel like for us as humans that we have to understand that when God gives us this big task, this big thing, this big dream, He's not saying, hey, I want you to come in your strength. No, He's saying, I want you to come knowing that my strength is getting ready to show up. Like my strength is getting ready to be on display. Like I'm not looking for your strength. I'm looking for your obedience. I'm looking for your yes. But it's going to be my strength that shows up. It's going to be my strength that gets put on display here. And I remember that as I think they were like outside the camp of the people that they were going to be defeated. They must have been like at some type of distance though from them, but whatever the distance was, I remember the spirit of the Lord came upon him, or either the spirit of the Lord or the angel came upon him and was like, "Hey, you're getting ready to go after the enemy." I think like that night, if I'm not mistaken, is how he worded it, and it was like, "And you're gonna defeat them," but it was like, "But if you don't believe me." I wanted you to go to their camp right now and bring your servant with you, right? So he brings his servant with him and they go, I don't know if they're like on the roof. They're somewhere. They're either like on the roof or like just out the window or something. They're positioned in a way where they can like hear the men from the other side talking. And I remember them getting into that position and they literally arrived just as the guy was like, hey, I had a dream. And I think he was looking for interpretation. And the guy told him about the dream, how like the boulder came down and the tent was like crushed or something was happening or whatever with their like with the enemy's territory stuff that they had. And I remember that the interpretation that was then said is like, oh my goodness, the Lord is with Like it was literally like, oh my goodness, the Lord is with Gideon. Gideon is going to overtake us. And I remember Gideon being like, oh my gosh. And he ran from that area with his servant and he ran back to his men. And he was like, you guys, we're getting ready to go right now. The Lord has given them into our hands. The Lord has given them into our hands. We're going to attack right now. And it was the confirmation that he needed. See, the Lord had already been telling him that this was what he was going to do. But in order for him to do that, God had to prepare him for that journey, right? He showed him his signs and wonders there. He showed him that he was God, that he was with him. He even showed him the confirmation that he needed just before it. But God needed Gideon's yes. He needed Gideon's obedience. He needed Gideon to be in position to say, hey, bring the men, come unto me, follow me in this place. And when they did, they got to see the victory that took place. It didn't mean that they didn't have to still go through a battle. No, they had a battle, right? They still had to fight these men, but they already knew that the Lord was already ahead of them. They already knew that the battle had been given into their hands. And I'm sharing that part because I need you to understand that when God says, take this leap of faith, go step out, He's not saying that from a position where He's not sure if it's going to work out for you. He's not saying it from a position of, oh, well, you can try, see what happens. No, He's saying it from the position of, I already know the outcome of what this is going to look like. I already know the outcome of how this is about to work for you. I already know the outcome of your obedience when you step in it. I just need you to do it so we can get to it, right? And it wasn't in Gideon's strength that this was done. It literally was in the strength of God. And when we as believers can understand and hold on to that concept and make it more tangible for us, right? Because theoretically, it sounds great, right? Like, well, hypothetically speaking, that sounds great and all. But in my reality of sorts, it doesn't look that way. And that's the part to me where it's like, well, we have to now take the word of God and make it tangible, right? For ourselves, for our own personal lives. Because when we can make it tangible for us, like when we can touch it, right? When you can like smell it, when you can like walk in and be like, oh, I'm in the essence of it. I could feel it, right? Like when we know it, there's a difference. So we have to begin making these moments more tangible for ourselves, right? And understanding how to apply it and not just being like, oh my God, I wish I could be more bold. And God's looking like, who says you're doing this alone? You're going with me. Am I not the one who is able to make you bold? Am I not the one who is able to do X and X? Like, am I not the one who can? But I need you to step out. I need you to try. I need you to believe. I'm just saying, I need you to believe. So, my encouragement to you today is believe. Step out. Take that leap. Listen, your leap may not be, moving across the country. Your leap could legit be you making a phone call to that company the Lord has been pressing on your mind to call. Your leap could literally be saying in the community that you're in, hey, I'm looking to collaborate with X, Y, and Z. Your leap of faith may be beginning to do the research for contracts in your area for the given endeavor that you're working on. Your leap of faith may literally be, hey, let me go ahead and just, submit this grant that I've been working on, submit this proposal to the city that I've been working on, submit this, um, I don't know, maybe you're trying to buy a house, right? Like, let me go ahead and submit this offer to the buyer, right? I don't know if they're going to accept it because it's a little bit lower than I would anticipate, but it's what I got. And I believe this house is mine. So let me just see what happens. Like, yo, you never know what God is going to do, especially when He's placing it upon your heart to do it. And at the time that He tells you to do it too. Timing be making a big difference there. Anyways, I just hope that that encourages you to take this leap of faith and just go for it. Like, just go for it. Second Corinthians 5:7 tells us what? We walk by faith and not by sight. So just do it, right? And he also tells us in what? Second Timothy 1:7. He doesn't give us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So walk in the sound mind that God gives you and watch him work on your behalf. Remember, none of this that we do is like just for us. No, this is to give him the glory. And when we can reframe our position and see it from that way, we understand that God, this is for you. So you're getting the glory out of this situation. So may your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And then surrender it to the Lord. And listen, there's times that I have to just say it. I may not be able to see it just yet, but I declare it. I say it, I call it out, look, I call out the things that I have not seen as though they are here. Why? Because I'm going to speak to that thing because I know that my words are powerful and I'm going to continue to speak to it and speak to what it is that the Lord is saying and come into agreement with what He is doing. So that is it for today's conversation. Also, for those of you who are also interested, there we go. Our Redefine Her mentorship transformation journey is kicking off on January the 16th, 2025. Super pumped and excited because we are going to be touching on four major pillars from our mindsets to shifting our habits, creating smart goals, you guys, and understanding the value in time management. Because, you guys, that time management piece right there is a piece that we all need work on. Period. Case closed. So I hope and I look forward to seeing you all there. And I look forward to catching you on the next episode. Bye for now.